Objetivo de construir un escenario de discusión pública sobre los riesgos digitales hacia niñas, niños y adolescentes en Colombia y en América Latina. Hoy estaremos examinando investigaciones y evidencia sobre las diversas formas de violencia que enfrentan niñas, niños y adolescentes en su experiencia digital desde la perspectiva de las víctimas y supervivientes. Este espacio será un abrebocas para nuestro evento Conectados para Protegerlos, que es un espacio de discusión y colaboración de estos temas en Colombia, a los cuales les hacemos extensiva invitación a todas las personas que están asistiendo a este webinar. Este evento se estará realizando el próximo 23 de mayo a las 8 a.m. en el Hotel Holiday Inn del aeropuerto. En el transcurso de este evento, les estaremos compartiendo el link para que puedan registrarse y asistir a nuestro evento Conectados para Protegerlos. Bueno, ahora sí, vamos a dividir este espacio, que tenemos un panel de lujo, y lo vamos a dividir en 3 momentos. En primer lugar, nuestras invitadas darán una introducción sobre su trabajo y sobre las investigaciones que están llevando a cabo acerca de los riesgos y desafíos de niñas, niños y adolescentes en el entorno digital. En segundo lugar, tendremos un espacio para que conversemos un poco más con estas 3 invitadas. Y en tercer lugar, tendremos un espacio con preguntas del público. Entonces, vamos a dar inicio a nuestro conversatorio. Nos acompaña el día de hoy Nina Varan Volkenen. Please, Lina, feel free to correct me if I have to make any corrections. Ella
Thank
es
you so much. It's honor to be here. I try to share my slides. So one second.
Give me a
I'm
second,
Nina
Nina.
Varan-Valkonen. I come from NGO, a very international NGO based in Helsinki. So we work every day to prevent sexual violence against children. And this is what we do. And we believe that this cannot be done without holistic research-based method. So what we do is that we collect and we focus on various focus groups, and I will tell more about our research.
Sorry,
yes.
Nina, just let me introduce all of the panel.
Wait a minute.
Can you hear me now?
I try to hear you, but I can't. Maybe it's the... Yeah, thank you.
Okay, I will let me please introduce all of the panel, and then we start with you, okay? I am not sure you're hearing me.
No.
Hola. Bueno, unos minutos, Nina.
Yeah.
Entonces estaba diciendo que Nina es cofundadora, directora ejecutiva, especialista principal y psicoterapeuta de Protect Children. Lleva 20 años trabajando para proteger a niñas, niños de la violencia sexual y trabaja en múltiples grupos de trabajo, tanto nacionales como internacionales, de especialistas de alto nivel. También ha sido ponente en conferencias nacionales e internacionales y ha dedicado toda su carrera y su vida a promover los derechos de víctimas y supervivientes de violencia sexual y de su familia y de sus familias. También trabaja como psicoterapeuta y está especializada en el tratamiento de trauma. En segundo lugar, tenemos a Sabrina Forbau. Ella es gestora de proyectos del European SchoolNet y miembro del equipo de ciudadanía digital desde el 2014. Su labor se centra en la gestión de diversos proyectos financiados por la Comisión Europea relacionados con la seguridad en línea y la alfabetización digital. En la actualidad, estos proyectos incluyen la European Film Factory y el proyecto MLCE, también otro proyecto del que nos estará hablando hoy. Además, Sabrina coordina el proyecto juvenil dentro de la iniciativa Better Internet for Kids. Ella es originaria de Alemania, licenciada en Ciencias Económicas Aplicadas y Administración de Empresas. Y por último, tenemos a Megan Taylor, que es superviviente de abuso sexual infantil mediado por tecnologías y desde el 2016 ha utilizado su experiencia para concienciar sobre los daños en línea a través de campañas para cambiar la práctica, la política y los derechos de las víctimas y supervivientes. Megan hace parte del equipo de la Fundación Marie Collins como defensora de víctimas y supervivientes. Y finalmente, yo, que soy quien los estará acompañando el día de hoy, soy Catalina Guerrero y soy quien actualmente coordina el Centro de Conocimiento en Guías. A partir de este punto, estaremos hablando en inglés, por lo que les pedimos a todas las personas asistentes que puedan indicar en la parte de abajo de la plataforma de Zoom la opción de traducción simultánea, un poco las pruebas que Sandra muy amablemente nos estaba ayudando a hacer. Si tienen algún problema con esto, igual pueden escribir por el chat para que puedan recibir ayuda de los técnicos. Entonces, ahora sí. Welcome, Nina, Sabrina, and Megan. Thank you for your time to participate in this webinar. To kick off, let's extend our heartfelt congratulations to Nina on her recent appointment as a chair of Victim Service and a funder manager subgroup during the 40th operational meeting of the Interpol Specialist Groups on Crime Against Children. So Nina, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, and forgive me starting too quickly. That's my style. Always a little bit like too fast. Thank you so much for the introduction, and thank you so much for the congratulating me for my new position. And I'm honored to take, after 30 years working with victims and survivors, I'm really honored to take this position. And for the next 3 years, I will make sure the victims and survivors' voices are highly and strongly heard at the Interpol conferences, yearly annual conferences, crimes against children. And of course, my expertise is preventing sexual violence against children. So that's what I'm going to keep on pushing the law enforcement to do better, to do more trauma-informed care for the victims and survivors of these crimes. Yes, I'm executive director, social psychologist. I'm a psychotherapist. I've been working in the field for 30 years. And when I turned 50, I established this organization as a little bit, probably might be my 50 years crisis, but I'm super happy. So I don't work, I live and breathe, protect children. And I make sure that victims and survivors' voices are heard and that child rights are respected, especially online. Our work is highly research-based. Everything we do is research-based, and we believe in holistic methods. Our work, daily work, can be separated in 3 sections. Early is the best because we analyze child sexual abuse material. So we all our preventive materials are based on what we see every day happening online. Then we work with our voice. We work with victims, survivors, and families whose children have been sexually abused online, offline, and we support families and parents. And then, of course, we are doing highly respected research on active offenders, mostly online offenders. But of course, as we all know, these crimes are not only online. These are mainly happening in contact offenses. So I'm kind of giving a very short overview of our work in the next 15 minutes. So why this NGO was established? It's established because I have been analyzing child sexual abuse material 10 years. I also train ICSE database new law enforcement analysts who are working at the Interpol level all over the world, as well as NECMEC analysts and law enforcement who are working and analyzing child sexual abuse material. Our organization has been analyzing now for almost 4 years, and we have analyzed 1.7 million single images and videos of online child sexual abuse. So as we see on daily basis what's happening online, we definitely understand that we need to do preventive work in every sector. We need to teach teachers, adults, everyone who is kind of in educational level, working with children. We need to teach children, but we need to also work with offenders, and especially active offenders. Anything we can do to prevent sexual crimes against children is worth of every second. So this is why we have produced online road safety materials, which are as road safety, we are teaching children how to be safe and what is kind of with their age appropriate materials. We are not talking about sexual violence. We are talking about harmful content. We are talking about age inappropriate material, and we are teaching their parents and teachers as well. I'm not focusing today on this and our materials, but all our materials are research-based, mostly CBT, which is cognitive behavioral theory-based, and every material has been piloted with children, and children's voices are heard when we produce materials. All our materials are free of charge in multiple languages on our web pages, so you can find Spanish materials on our web page as well. We have a material bank where you can access all our materials, also in Spanish, some of them. And as everything what we do is research-based, we of course start early, so our materials are from 4-5 years old, but of course we understand that this time we need also materials for adolescents as well. And this web page, which is called myfriend2.com, is based on very large national and international research results, which are highly underlining the fact that children do not tell adults, they tell their friends. And that's why we have clear instructions for every adolescent what to do if their friend becomes victim of sexual violence, or if the friend's nude images are shared online, or if somebody is blackmailing a friend. As we all know that the increase of sexual extortion is now on huge rise, especially at the Interpol level. We can hear about organized crime groups that are really pushing the blackmailing money and blackmailing in a harsh ways, also nude images from adolescent children. So here, this materials is for young people. They have been produced in a way they are very clear and giving clear instructions, guiding adolescents to reach adults, safe adults, for support and help. Then of course we help parents whose children have become victims of sexual violence. We have 3 different groups. We have groups for parents whose someone close have committed sexual crimes against their children, which is the most cases, unfortunately. Then we have a group for where the offender is extra familiar, so that they don't know the offender. And then we have groups for online cases. And these groups we have led since 2021. And I think we have led 10 groups, and now we are doing research based on these groups in Ireland and in Finland, and we will publish these research results at the peer conference, which is held in UK May, and of course next week at the NATO conference in Birmingham as well. So new research results is coming out of our peer support groups, and it's also based on cognitive behavioral psychotherapy and therapy, and also trauma-informed care, and a lot of psychoeducation for the parents. And then, as I said, we also need to work and research active online offenders, because the pathway from first thought of something sexual thoughts against children, the pathway to actual offense against children is not very, it's quite long. Usually it's not something that we couldn't do something between the first thought and the actual crime. So this is why we need to do this. This is why, even it's not as a child protection organization, it's hard for us, and especially hard personally for me to treat offenders, but I can do it because I want to protect children and I want to prevent re-offending. So we have collected 32,500 responses from active online offenders all over the world. And the biggest language areas that we have got responses is English and Spanish. So we have also produced a Spanish language offenders report if you are interested, and Red Papas have been helping us since 2020. So we have a long collaboration with Red Papas. So thank you so much for the collaboration. And based on these research results, we produced a self-help program for offenders who are using child sexual abuse material. And why we did this is because 40% of the offenders said that when they view the material, they will contact the child. So this is absolutely important to get something in between. And that's why if you take the QR code, you can see, you can access the Spanish language redirection self-help program. And I'm happy to say that it has been evaluated based kind of what is the scalability. The scalability of this program is really good. And now we are starting clinical trial to evaluate it even more. And we are in one clinical trial already evaluating a little bit shorter version of this program. So happy to tell you that we are starting the research project, and especially focusing on Latin America and Spanish language offenders as well within our research. And those who have gone through the program, they give really positive feedback, and we are writing now academic article based on the feedback that we have got, and also we are researching the help-seeking behavior of these online offenders. So there will be coming more research, and happy to say that we have got already 2 publications, one Stanford University journal, which can be found on our webpage, and also one for Nature Science research article. But of course, as today we are talking about children and adolescents, so I think this research report is highly relevant for every one of you. So quite often we talk about dark web, but what we can see is happening right now. It's not only the dark web. It is that, as we all know, people are very lazy and people are they want to use methods which are easy for them. And the dark web is not easy. So what we are seeing, as we ask from the active online offenders, which platforms you use, which tools you use to sexually abuse children. And this is the answer we are getting. Offenders are using more and more just normal social media platforms, normal end-to-end messaging apps, like, for example, WhatsApp, Telegram, as you can see the names here, and also online games. And this is something I think everyone who works with children needs to know. And you can find this research on our web pages, but I'm just going through very quickly the numbers that the online active offenders who are not convicted, they are right now contacting children. They are now committing offenses against children, are saying what they use. So this is the percentages they said that what they use to view, to share child sexual abuse material, and also to on which platforms they contact children. So they use a lot of these end-to-end encrypted services, and that's why we really are pushing the legislators to regulate and make new legislation to make sure that these platforms are not so available for the offenders. And I think that if you look this slide, you can actually think which of the social media platforms your children are using on daily basis. And for example, when we treat our parents group, we hear quite often some of these platforms mentioned, the ways that the offender has been contacting children. And then I think it's really important to highlight that we cannot do preventive work if we don't listen victims and survivors of sexual violence. And this is why we have published in November 2023 our voice survey for survivors of sexual violence in childhood. I'm happy to say that actually we have a huge amount of data from Latin America, because we contacted all the NGOs in Latin America, and of course Red Papas helped us a lot. So actually, Eva, I don't have the data in front of me, but I think altogether we have something like 3,600. Eva is my colleague from Protect Children, so she knows the data. But we have most of the answers are coming from Argentina, but we have other countries as well, like Venezuela, Peru, Mexico. So we will be doing research and public. We will be making reports and publications based on Latin America survivors' answers, which gives the information to do more preventive work. I must say that it's very sad data which is coming in from Latin America as well as globally, and it's quite similar if we compare like the survivors' voices from Finland to Latin America. Often offender, they say, has been male. It has been someone they knew, someone close one. They have been sexually abused from 3 to 11. That's the age range which most of the survivors say. So we are talking about very small children, not adolescents. They have been victims quite many times. So it's not only one occasion. So it's a kind of re-victimization. It's unfortunately, they have disclosed. I think almost 80% of the survivors have disclosed to someone, but it hasn't led to anything. And this is quite similar all over the world. And also, they think that disclosure didn't get them support or help. And I think it's almost over 90% that people say that they didn't get any police investigations. So this is something we really need to push and do more, as over 80% of survivors of online child sexual abuse say their abuse has led to a long-term negative consequences. And we will be publishing new research report on these 16,220 responses, and it's getting up all the time about the long-term consequences survivors are suffering. So we need to do more to get them support and help. And here, my dear colleague Eva Diaz-Petenko was collecting some of the Spanish language responses we have been getting in. And we chose the online offenses or technology facilitated crimes. So any questions you want to ask from the chat, Eva is also able to answer in Spanish, as she can fluently speak Spanish as well. So this was my very short introduction to our organization. I'm happy to answer any of your questions, and happy to be here. Thank you so much.
Nina, thank you so much for sharing with us your contributions and for sharing the results of your recent research, as well as for explaining the different programs that you have, such as redirection, self-help program, You Are Enough, and our voice survey. You work with different agents, survivors, families, and also perpetrators, which is a very unique intervention. So thank you for sharing with us everything about this. We will proceed with the questions after all of the other panelists have already been giving their presentations. So after Nina, the turn is for Sabrina. I don't see Sabrina in here. Sabrina? Yes. Okay, so Sabrina, you're the project coordinator at the European SchoolNet. Sabrina, please proceed with your presentation.
Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. I just wanted to warn you that I'm experiencing some connectivity issues. So I can try to share the presentation myself, but I have already been dropping out multiple times of the call. So let's see if we can make it through without any issues. But in any case, I already shared my presentation with the organizer, so hopefully this works. Let me know if you can see the presentation properly.
Yes, everything is working fine.
Okay, then I get started, and I think once again, Alejandro and also the colleagues at the Colombian Safer Internet Center for inviting me to present our work here. My name is Sabrina. I'm based in Brussels, Belgium. And I work for European SchoolNet, which is an NGO, and in our origin, we are a network of European ministries of education. And we are also facilitating a range of projects on behalf of the European Commission. And specifically in the team I'm working in, our focus is on digital citizenship. And I will be presenting 3 projects to you, and I think it very well links with the presentation that Nina has been giving now, because our focus is really to develop educational approaches to help ministries of education, but also teachers, parents, and young people to cope with all the challenges and risks that are taking place online. So really to provide educational resources on various topics that they can use in the school, but also in the family settings to foster discussions around certain challenges, but also promote the positive usage of technologies and also the opportunity that the internet is offering to all of us. One of our flagship projects that we are coordinating on behalf of the European Commission is the Better Internet for Kids project that also includes the coordination of a European network of safer internet centers. And over the years, we have also been able to enlarge sort of the collaboration at a global level. And since 2020, we also have the Safer Internet Center Plus program that allows colleagues like the Safer Internet Center.
Sabrina?
I think she has connection problems.
Yes. Let me see if we can solve this. Otherwise, we can move to, okay, Sabrina, you're back. Do you want to send us your presentation? So, and maybe if you disconnect your camera, it could help also.
Yes, I sent my presentation already.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not sure if I'm able now to navigate it myself, but we can move to the next slide. Okay, so I don't know where I got cut off, but just to say that we are facilitating this as part of the Better Internet for Kids project that is created and built on the Better Internet for Kids plus strategy that we have here in the European Union, that really emphasizes on active youth participation, protection and empowerment of children and young people. And we try, as part of the Better Internet for Kids project and the work we're doing, to really filter this into our daily work and ensure that children and young people are really active participants, but that they also learn and understand and know where to turn to when they experience difficulties. And of course, young people and children can only be empowered if also adults feel that they're empowered. And specifically here, I refer to parents, legal guardians, and also teachers. We need to ensure that we also equip them with according skills and resources and professional development opportunities that they can sort of bring this also to the children and to the young people. So it's really also a child and adult training and learning activity, which is one of the actions as part of this strategy. And just to share that also this strategy that of course exists for a very long time was revised in 2022. And the process also was done in a co-creation process with various stakeholders. One of them also being children and young people themselves. And because it's a policy document, we also translated this in a child and youth-friendly version that is accessible in all the EU languages, plus some others, including Ukrainian. So also young people know basically what is the context of the strategy and how they can access their rights when being online. Can go to the next slide. Okay. The one before, please. Okay, as I said, this project is heavily carried also by the work of the European Safer Internet Centers, that is also known as the InSafe and InHope network. And as I said before, also the InHope network is operating at a global level, and through the Safer Internet Center Plus program, we are also able to connect with like-minded organizations across the world. Typically, a Safer Internet Center is established based on 3 strengths: awareness raising, helpline, hotlines, and youth participation. I think Nina touched up on very well already on the hotline aspect, so I won't go into further detail. But just to emphasize that it's a consortium, it's a joint approach that all 4 strengths are working together, raising awareness at national level on various challenges and risks, but also promoting a positive usage of being online. In all European countries, but I know this also exists in countries at international level, there are helplines for children and young people, but also adults that provide first aid to any type of issues in regards to online safety issues. And then the component of youth participation that you also heard in my introduction, I'm looking specifically after, that we really want to advocate to provide children and young people a platform to engage in the discussion, not only have them as a nice to have in conferences or expecting from them to use certain end products, but really integrate them in co-creation processes and also policy-making processes. And I think the Better Internet for Kids Plus strategy is a very good example already how we involved children and young people really from the early stages in revising this policy document. I included a hyperlink here on the slides just for you afterwards. I'm happy to share my presentation to read more about the InSafe and InHope network and also the setup of the Safer Internet Center. We'll go to the next slide. Here, as I said, as we're also talking today about risks and challenges and potential trends, it is really important and crucial for us to have this connection with the helplines in the different EU member states, plus Iceland and Norway, because they're really the intelligence hubs for us to understand what is happening at national level. We have a reporting mechanism where every 3 months helplines report cases to us. And this really helps us to understand what is happening or also at national level, but also create this European overview to really identify on new emerging trends and risks. And you can see here on the slide, this is basically the outline from the quarter October to December. And this is the numbers are based on helplines, all EU helplines, plus Norway and Iceland. And you can see here that one of the main concerns still why children and young people, but also adults contact the helplines is cyberbullying. I think this has been a top issue for numerous years now. Then we have online reputation, law of relationship and sexuality, e-crime, and then potential harmful content. And you can see here that the list goes on. Also for references, I kind of included here for you the categories in which the helplines are reporting. This is only related to online safety issues, but of course we are aware that in many cases, for example, also in cases of cyberbullying, the bullying actually started in an offline manner and then continued through devices online. So there's not really a clear distinction and it's often a very blurry distinction, but you can see here also the 4 main areas that helplines sort of report in and operate in. We are publishing these statistics as well, if you're interested, on the Better Internet for Kids portal. As I said, every 3 months, helplines are reporting to us, and this really helps us to set a tone for our activities, also for focuses in terms of professional development opportunities we are offering for young people, for teachers, and also for parents, be this coming in the form of resources, but also webinars and other activities. So this is a really vital element for us, that we have this European network. And as I said, we also have the direct opportunity now to connect our European Safer Internet Centers with like-minded organizations like the one in Colombia, to really also exchange on this and see if trends and emerging risks and challenges are really very similar. So I think this is also very vital for our colleagues at the Safer Internet Centers here in Europe to really have this opportunity to exchange with other organizations at global level. You can go to the next slide. And I'm happy that my connection seems to be stable. Here just a few examples. First of all, as a print screen of the Better Internet for Kids portal, which really is a gateway for many different informations when it comes to online safety. The link is betterinternetforkids.eu. You will find here more general information about the InSafe and InHope network that I already mentioned, but also the statistics that I showed in my previous slide. You can also, for example, find there. You can see here that we also on the website, on the main page, we also give direct entry points to different stakeholders, depending who you are. It's a very comprehensive website. It's a public website. There's no login needed, even though on the upper right side, you may see the word sign in, but this is only for the employees of the Safer Internet Centers. There is a closed community behind, but for any other stakeholders, all the resources are accessible without any login requirement. So depending who you are, you can already navigate the website in different ways. If you are a parent or carer, if you're a teacher or an educator, or someone from academia. As I said, we are working with many, many different actors at European and at also national level. My poor Spanish, I saw a question in the chat, and of course there are also materials and resources in Spanish available. There is a tab at the very top that says resources, where we basically have a resource gallery of many resources that are provided by the National Safer Internet Centers. So you can filter on the topic that you're looking for and also the language that you're looking for. So there are plenty of resources for sure in Spanish. You can also see, you can also find on the website who is our contact point in Spain, for instance, but also in Colombia. As I said, Red Papas is our contact point in Colombia. So we also offer to each of our network members, we give them visibility on the portal, and we link directly to the national websites as well. The Better Internet for Kids portal also leads you to different other web pages, for example, Safer Internet Day. This maybe is a campaign that rings a bell to you, which is a global campaign that we celebrate every year in February. So we have a whole other website connected just specifically to the campaign of Safer Internet Day. And here again, you can also find resources and materials linked to the campaign as well. So I think there's a lot of information on the website, also information for yourself in terms of professional development. Another important tool I would like to mention is also the guide to apps. And in her presentation, Nina flagged a couple of apps already, and also those that are specifically popular with children and young people. And what we try to do with this guide to app is really to provide very compact and short information, mainly to people when it comes to safety, when it comes to reporting, when it comes to privacy, for example. So you can basically select, we have many applications from TikTok over Instagram, but also gaming apps there, and you will find short manuals. And in many cases, these manuals are also available in other languages than English. So I think this is also a very nice resource specifically for adults. We see a
We lost Sabrina again.
You can still hear me?
Yes, we lost you for a little bit. We heard until you were explaining about resources for parents.
Yes, so we see that I was referring to the guide to apps. We see that a lot of adults refer to it because it gives short and compact information of applications that children and young people are using. And then just to move on the right side, just some pictures to see our Better Internet for Kids youth ambassadors in action, because this is also another activity, as I said at the beginning, we are very advocating for, to make children and young people really an integral part of the conversation with policymakers, with industry, and with other experts. So we have a network of European youth ambassadors that really go on the ground and engage with different stakeholders, sharing their opinion, sharing their concerns. And this is one of the things we're really grateful for, that we really try to emphasize meaningful and effective youth participation, really giving a voice and a platform to the young people to be part of the conversation and part of the co-creation process. Next slide, please. And then just to share very briefly some other project activities with us. As I said, Better Internet for Kids is really our flagship event, our flagship project, but we are also facilitating on behalf of the European Commission other projects. One of them is has a specific focus on media literacy education for professionals and for educators. And if you're interested, this is open to everyone who is interested. We are hosting a massive open online course from the 6th of May to the 12th of June for professionals, educational professionals working with children and young people in formal but also non-informal educational settings. You can join us for this course. This course will also remain as an open resource afterwards. So if you register, but then not be able to complete the course in time, you will still be able to access afterwards all the resources that are provided. And if you complete the course, it comes with 4 modules at the end, which we hope you will do. You will also receive certification. So the link to register is here, and this is really open to everyone. There's no restrictions. And then last but not least, I also wanted to share with you another project we are working on, which has a specific focus on online gender-based violence, an emergent topic we are seeing. So gender-based violence clearly is not a new and emerging topic, but the digital aspect, the digital dimension to it is. And we're very proud that also with the support of safer internet centers in Greece, Belgium, and Denmark, we are currently implementing the Enable project. Just to give you very brief insight what the project is about. On the next slide, you can see the main objectives of the project. Again, with European SchoolNet, we are always aiming to bring the educational perspective and the educational aspect to the topic. And we are basically developing at the moment a toolbox for educators, for professionals to learn and also to have a discussion with children and young people on the topic. We see that in many countries, the gender and gender-based violence, sexuality is really not a topic that is promoted and openly discussed about. We see that, of course, main victims are women and girls, but we also see very often, we see and we believe that the role of boys and young men is crucial to combat gender-based violence, but also accept that they can also be victims themselves. So we do a range of awareness raising activities, also to misconceptions and stereotypes. We are engaging with other stakeholders from the policy and also from academia in the conversation. And as I said, we are currently in the process of the development of an educational toolbox. On the next slide, you can scan, if you're interested, our research report, because we really dedicated the first year of the project for us to familiarize with the topic. It's not gender-based violence is not our expertise, but the digital dimension to certain issues is. So we really used the first half of the project to see what is already happening at European and national level in terms of policies and legislations. But we also spoke with young people and educators about their perception of the issue and their understanding. And we combined this in this research report, which is very comprehensive. But if you're interested in the subject, I think it's definitely worth a read, because it gives a really comprehensive overview and takes basically stock of the current issue and also the phenomenon. And then on the last slide, or the second last slide, just to share with you what is happening as part of this project. So I mentioned that we're doing active awareness raising around specific areas of the topic. So we are launching quarterly campaigns on social media and also do outreach activities. Also, this project will come with a massive open online course for educators later this year. And I'm happy once the registration is online to share this with you as well. And then we are also organizing an event specifically for young people and educators to continue co-creating and sort of upscaling this toolbox with us. And on this final slide, you can see our social media channels for this project. And here we specifically are focusing on Instagram and TikTok because we want to engage with young people. We want to raise more awareness and understanding of the issues. This is why we also are using the main and most popular platforms, at least here in Europe, where children and young people are. So if you are also using these applications and you are interested in this project, please do follow us and stay in touch. And with this, I thank you very much for your attention. Very apologies for the technical issues. And I look forward to your comments and questions.
Sabrina, thank you for sharing with us all these resources and tools from the Better Internet for Kids, and also shedding light on the new emerging risks, harms on the digital sphere, as well as all the opportunities that this sphere can offer kids. So as we drew near to the conclusion of the webinar, we look forward to hearing from Megan. Megan, thank you for joining us and for offering your invaluable perspective on the experiences of victims and survivors in these complex situations. So the stage is yours.
Thank you. I'm just going to share my screen. Hopefully you can all see that.
Yes, Megan.
Perfect. So I'm Megan. I'm from the Marie Collins Foundation, and I'm going to speak to you today just to give a bit of an insight about the impact that this type of harm can have on children and young people, and just a bit about what we do as an organisation. So we basically exist to ensure that the response to victims of technology-assisted child sexual abuse does no further harm. And we want to support people to recover from this type of harm. So our charity is actually based on a real person, Marie Collins herself. Back in the 1960s, Marie went in for a routine operation in her local hospital on her arm. And there a priest took an interest in her, so the local hospital chaplain. Her parents were really, really happy that she had an adult there that took an interest, that would go and read books to her, that would play with her, so that they knew she wouldn't be alone when they had to go home for the night in the evenings. Unfortunately, the hospital chaplain did go on to abuse Marie, and as part of that abuse, he took photographs of what he had done to her. He made sure from his position of abuse and from power over Marie, being older and being a respected member of the community, that he silenced her, made her think that what he was doing was right, and told her that she was wrong for thinking that it was not normal. Marie stayed silent for 30 years, but eventually plucked up the courage to disclose. And when she did, the first thing that she asked was, where are those images? Who has seen them? And can we ever gain control of them again? And that's really where we come in. So the Marie Collins Foundation wants to support people and help them to recover. And we really recognise that there is specific and unique harms in technology-assisted child sexual abuse, specifically the permanency of child sexual abuse material and the fact that often we can't gain control of that again. As part of our work, we have 4 main strands. So we do a lot in terms of education. So that's for professionals who work with children and young people, for parents about sort of signs and things to look out for and how to support children and young people, and also for wider society, because as I've already mentioned, there's a lot of myths around this, and people think that actually online abuse isn't impactful, but it really is. We work a lot in terms of innovation. So we work with the tech industry to try and come up with solutions on how to make sure that platforms are safe by design and that perpetrators don't have a place to hide, so that they can't carry out these crimes with ease. We definitely focus specifically on recovery of victims and survivors, and that's not just children and young people, but also adult survivors who might have disclosed later on in life. And we also do lots and lots of work with advocacy, and that's where my role sits. So I'm victim and survivor advocate. And really the main part of my role is to co-facilitate a group of adult victims and survivors. So they all have lived experience of child sexual abuse. And we basically get their opinions on absolutely everything that we do as an organisation, so that we make sure that the voice of lived experience runs throughout everything that we do, and everything that we're doing, we run past them. We have external organisations that work with us when they want to get the lived experience group's opinions. And that's a huge part of what we do, because we know that everything is for children and young people and for the adult victims and survivors. So we really want to get it right. I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about the impact. I'm aware I only have 15 minutes, so I'm not going to go on a big long ramble, and I'm mainly going to focus on the impacts, but I'll give you a bit of background about me. So this is me when I was 14 years old. I had experienced really, really bad bullying at previous school and was put through a forced move where I was removed from my prior school, where I was physically, verbally and online abused through violence. And I had no friends. I had just joined this school. I was 14. I was desperate to make friends, meet people, and it was a real fresh start for me. And as part of that, social media helped me foster those connections that I was making with my peers back in my home setting. So I'd go to school, I'd see people, I'd add them on Facebook, on Snapchat, on Instagram, and I'd talk to people, like their pictures. And the only way I can describe it is a bit of a buzz, a bit of a high that I was getting from this, a bit of validation that people wanted to talk to me, they were interested, and it felt really good. As part of that, I was taking a few risks. I added people that I didn't necessarily know. And one of those people that I added was a boy in the year above me who I hadn't spoken to in person before, but I'd seen him in the corridors. I knew people that knew him. And we began talking and built up a really solid friendship over the course of about 2 weeks. After sort of about 2 weeks, he'd really gained my trust. And he told me that he wanted to have a romantic relationship with me, and that he really liked me, and that he thought I was great. And I really opened up to him about some of my previous struggles. But as soon as he had gained my trust, the relationship really, really took a turn for the worse. He started to ask me to send images, naked images of myself to him, to which originally I said, no, I'm not doing that. I don't want to. I don't feel comfortable. And he didn't take this very well. He became very, very aggressive and threatening. And over the course of about 2 to 3 days, he would send me messages hourly when I was at maths class in school, when I was in bed, when I was in the shower, when I was eating dinner with my family, asking me to do all sorts on camera. He said that if I didn't, he would destroy my life at school, that no one would want to be friends with me. He tried to normalize it and tell me that everybody was doing it. He told me that he wouldn't speak to me again if I didn't meet his requests. And I can remember the moment that I snapped. I was in my parents' kitchen and no one was home. I lifted up my top and took the first image, and I thought that would be the end of it and we could go back to the friendship that we had built up. But unfortunately, he wasn't happy with that request and the image that I'd sent him. And over the course of the next 3 hours, he coerced, manipulated and blackmailed me using the first image into sending more graphic pictures and videos of myself, some of the worst that you can imagine. After I'd sent what I call, his money shot, the thing that he always set out to get, all contact ceased for about an hour. And the next message I got, after completely panicking that I'd done something wrong, was actually a picture, but it wasn't a picture of his face. It was a picture of a girl in my year group who, from the day that he'd sent me the first friend request, had been working with him to gain these images, with the sheer intent of humiliation, embarrassment, and to try and control me. I panicked at that point, and the girl told me that if I didn't answer a phone call from her at that right second, that she would spread it everywhere. But I turned my phone off, and I just hoped that horrendous prank they were playing on me would end at that point and they'd see some sense. But unfortunately, when I went to school the next day, it had been printed out on school printers. It was on every single social media platform there was. It was on WhatsApp group chats. It had been Bluetoothed. It had been sent in text messages. It was absolutely everywhere. When I disclosed the abuse that same day, I was met with an abysmal professional response, a very, very poor professional response. I was very much treated as the one who had done something wrong. I wasn't offered any sort of support or help at all. My parents were called in, social services were called in, and the police were called in, and I got in huge trouble for what I'd done, and nobody recognized me as the victim. And instead of asking how this could have happened and how I was feeling and how they could support me, instead they made sure that I was punished and that the two people that did this to me got away scot-free, so they didn't have any punishment at all. The short-term impact for me was huge. I turned to self-harming. I had a raging eating disorder. I had real bad suicidal thoughts, to the point that I'd meticulously planned out how I was going to end my life, and I was convinced I wouldn't make it to my 18th birthday. It just wasn't on the cards for me. I had really, really bad anxiety, just constant paranoia, because everybody had seen me in the worst moments of my life. It was plastered out there for everyone to see, and there was no gaining control of that again. And that left me really, really isolated and very angry at everyone around me, which led to me being physically restrained a couple of times, just because I couldn't cope with the fallout of what had happened. It also left me really vulnerable to re-victimization. So local paedophiles in my village where I lived had seen the images online, knew that I was vulnerable and used that as a target, as did other male peers at my school who saw my body as sort of theirs to use and abuse after seeing the images of me. And by the time I was 16, I had been subjected to abuse by 15 different perpetrators, and that included online and offline abuse, including rape and sexual assault. The long-term impact of that is that last year, I'm 24 now, last year I was diagnosed with complex post-traumatic stress disorder, which manifests in me through sort of flashbacks and nightmares. Like I've already said, my abuse doesn't have an end date. It will never have an end date, because the images and the videos weren't taken down in an appropriate time manner, and I don't know where they are, who's watching them, who's seen them. You know, I can't even go to my local shop, because I still live in the village where the abuse happened, without fear of bumping into someone who might have seen those videos. And actually in 2019, I went public with my story on the news, and I got added into a group chat of about 30 or so males who were threatening to release some of those images. I really have issues maintaining and building relationships still, because I don't have any trust in people, which affects my self-esteem. I'm very, very prone to stress and anxiety, which isn't good when it comes to work, but I do tend to manage it. I have a lot of shame and guilt about the abuse, even though I know that is not my burden to carry, because what was done to me was not my fault. I grieve the life that I could have lived if the abuse hadn't happened, who I could have been and where I could have been in my journey now, rather than having to spend the last decade of my life recovering from this horrendous thing that I was put through. But with that, I have a lot of acceptance and strength, and I'm doing the work that I do. And this is why I'm so happy to come and speak on webinars like I have today, because we can really make a difference collectively. I work with a group of victims and survivors, and these are some of the quotes that they would say to you if they were here today. They said, "Online abuse is torture for the soul," that whilst perpetrators might be locked up, victims never get parole. I'm not the person I was supposed to be. It never ends. It never stops. And that doubt is always just the other side of the door, because people really don't understand the impact that this type of abuse can have on people. If you take anything away from today, it is that technology-assisted child sexual abuse isn't new. It is here. It is happening. NECMEC's cyber tip line actually received 36.2 million reports of suspected child sexual exploitation online last year. It is happening, and we need to do something about it. We want to keep responsibility firmly where it lies, and that is not on children. It's not their responsibility to keep themselves safe. It's our responsibility as professionals, as policymakers, and it certainly is the tech companies' responsibility to make sure their platforms are as safe as possible so that offenders have nowhere to hide and that these harms can't be perpetrated on their platforms. I also want to say that the UK have started to regulate online and that Australia are also doing so. So please learn from our mistakes. You don't have to learn the lessons and go through what we have been through and see children face the harm that they have in these places. We are laying the foundations. We're not going to get it right first time, but hopefully we can pave the way for other countries to do so as well, because without regulation, things are just going to get out of hand because there's ever increasing technological advances such as AI, which are always presenting more and more risks for children. And there's already so much harm that is happening on these platforms. And also, I'd like to say that please invest in recovery processes. Unfortunately, I would love to stand up here and say that we can do all we can, and we will eventually see a world where sexual violence against children doesn't happen. But that's not the case. There will always be some perpetrators that do offend, and recovery is so important because you can, as a survivor, go on to live a happy, safe, and healthy life away from the abuse, and it doesn't define you. But we really need investment in report and in support and recovery services to do that. Just to plug MCF a bit more, we have some fantastic resources on our website if you want to go check them out in Spanish language as well as in English. And we also have a translate button on our website, so everything should be translated into whatever your preferred language should be. And I'm also just going to leave my the QR code will take you through to the MCF website and my contact details in case anyone wants those. And thank you once again for inviting me to speak and for listening to me today.
Of the real people affected by these issues. So thank you for reminding us of the human stories behind the situations and behind all of these statistics. So thank you a lot for that. Okay, so with all of what you have all shared, we would like to continue with some of the questions that we have been receiving through the chat. So maybe we can start with Nina. We are receiving this message from Bolivia. So I'm gonna read the message. My name is Nancy. I work with Educo Bolivia. I coordinate a program to combat the trafficking and sexual exploitation of children. How could we contact Nina's team to involve Bolivia in these important research efforts? How can we establish contact?
Yes, thank you. I think Eva from my colleague from Protect Children already answered, but we are happy to collaborate. And if you want to write us in Spanish, so you can find Eva's contact information. So we are happy to collaborate. Yeah, I promised some data. I think we have over 2,500 responses from survivors from Argentina, over 350,000 from Colombia. Almost 250 from Mexico, a little bit over 124 from Chile, over 100 Venezuela, 100 from Peru, a little bit under 100 Ecuador, and Costa Rica and Paraguay. So we will have a good database from Latin America survivors. So happy to collaborate and happy if you are able to share our global survivor survey. And we work also with the UK specialist. So we try to give the voices, amplify the voices of every country in this world to get survivors' wisdom to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. This one is for Sabrina. What were the results of talking with the boys and girls in this project? I believe
The Menable project, I guess.
I believe so, yes. The last one that you presented.
Yeah. So just to give a bit more context, so these focus groups happened and were consulted by our partners in the project, so the Safer Internet Centers in Belgium, in Denmark, and in Greece. And on top of my head, I think what we learned, as I said also during the presentation, is that there is not a lot of awareness on the topic, and we feel that the topic specifically around sexuality is something that in many countries is still sort of a taboo topic in families, but also in schools, for example. And at European level, we also see that there is no clear and united definition on the topic, which of course makes total sense, given that each culture and each country is very diverse. What we try to do in the Menable project is to establish our own definition. As I said, Menable is aiming for to create educational approaches and materials to start the conversation on the subject. So in the research report, you will also be able to find it. So I think across the three countries where the conversations took place with the young people, is that there's really little awareness, but also not a lot of room and space for the young people to really express themselves. The colleagues that conducted these focus groups from Safer Internet Centers really saw the young people also opening up, and sometimes many of them have the feeling they can't do this, for example, in front of a teacher or a parent, because they might be immediately judged. So I think it's once again very good that we have professionals like those working at the Safer Internet Centers who can really be the facilitators of those discussions. So I think that were the main takeaways. And then of course also the young people shared with us different ways in which they would like to learn about this topic. So in many schools, there's still a lot of traditional classroom settings taking place, for example, that don't really invite to have the conversation in the classroom, with the teacher being the person that is in front of the class sharing all the information and has all the knowledge. So I think young people are also looking for more settings where conversations equal.
Let's wait if Sabrina. We have you back, Sabrina. We lost you for a little bit.
Okay, I can just also reply in the chat if that's easier.
Okay, thank you so much, Sabrina. I think that we got most of the answer. And the last one is for Megan. So again, thank you, Megan, for sharing with us your story. And there is someone in the chat that I would read the comment. I would like to know if there was any information or assistance that you would have liked to know at that time when you were experiencing this situation.
I think before I sent the image, if I was able to have an open and honest conversation with someone that would talk to me about sex, you know, I was a teenager and told not to talk about these things. I didn't get education about how to be safe online, what a healthy relationship looked like, or where to go to report or talk to someone where things didn't feel right. that would have been really, really useful to stop that initial snowball effect. And afterwards, I think if someone had told me at the point that I disclosed that, thank you for telling me, it's not your fault, you shouldn't have had to go through this, it would have really saved me from the last 10 years of pain, guilt and shame. Because I think that happens a lot with survivors, that they don't actually hear those words from professionals that, you know, you're not to blame for this, the only person to blame is the person that did this. And that is really important for victims to hear, I think.
Okay, thank you. We have a couple of minutes if any one of you want to add a little bit more, maybe Eva, that you're also with us here today, or Nina, Sabrina, Megan.
Yeah, yes, well, puedo hablar en castellano, como tenemos la traducción, la interpretación es más sencillo. Bueno, ya Nina ya explicó un poco todo sobre los proyectos que desarrollamos en Protect Children. Me gustaría antes que nada agradecer por este espacio, la verdad que ha sido interesantísimo escuchar tanto, bueno, sobre Sabrina como Megan, los proyectos que realizan. Muchísimas gracias, Megan, te lo escribí por el chat, pero muchas gracias por compartir la historia. Y bueno, también alguna persona nos comentó, Nancy, en el chat, cómo conseguir nuestro contacto, ya lo compartí por el chat. Si alguien está interesado en conocer más sobre nuestros proyectos o incluso en colaborar, nosotras estamos súper abiertas siempre en esta colaboración internacional. Creemos que es la mejor forma para prevenir y combatir la violencia sexual infantil. Entonces hemos dejado los correos en el chat y quien quiera ponerse en contacto con nosotros, les podemos compartir más material o información, pues como comentaba Nina, por ejemplo, sobre la encuesta Nuestra Voz, que en este caso estoy liderando yo. Más estadísticas o más información sobre la encuesta, aunque ya realizaremos también las investigaciones y el análisis de los datos cuando terminemos el proceso de recopilación de datos. Pero bueno, cualquier tipo de información que deseen o contacto, estamos súper contentas de recibir cualquier contacto de ustedes y aquí estamos para cualquier pregunta también. Muchas gracias.
Gracias, Eva. Okay, so yes, sorry, Nina.
Yeah, and just to highlight the main research results we got from the online active offenders was that they first saw very violent sexual material and child sexual material as a child. So this is not something we can prevent without regulation and legislation. 70% of online active offenders saw child sexual abuse material under 18 and 40% under 13. So this is something we call now adverse childhood experience, and it will have a negative effect on child development pathways. So this is something we are really pushing at the EU level as well as internationally, that we need more age verification, we need more regulation to make sure that our children are not exposed to a very violent and harmful content which is not age appropriate. So this is something we are pushing really hard, and hopefully one day it will come to be that you just cannot click and see whatever, even you are a very young child. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Nina. We really hope for a better future, and also we're working for that. So just to a little bit of close-up, we want to extend our sincere gratitude to all of our experts here today for sharing their invaluable experience and knowledge with us. Your insights have significantly enriched our understanding of this topic, so really thank you. Y a todas las personas que nos estaban escuchando y que nos tuvieron paciencia con estos problemitas técnicos, muchas gracias también por acompañarnos y hacer parte de este conversatorio. A todo el equipo técnico detrás que hicieron posible la transmisión, la traducción, la coordinación, a todos ellos y ellos, muchas gracias. El próximo martes 30 de abril los invitamos en este mismo espacio, misma hora, a las 9 de la mañana, a ser parte del webinar Prácticas Internacionales Emergentes para la protección de niñas, niños y adolescentes de los riesgos en línea mediante regulación. Aquí vamos a contar con la participación de Ryan Stanton Steven Sawyer y Joao Francisco de Aguiar Coelho. También los invitamos a registrarse para participar en el evento de Conectados para Protegerlos, el cual estaremos realizando en Bogotá, les recuerdo, el próximo jueves 23 de mayo. Todas las personas muy invitadas y nuevamente muchas gracias a todas y todos. Que tengan un feliz resto de semana. Chaito.
Gracias. Bye bye.
Muchas gracias.
Bye,
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye, bye.
Gracias.